Hi everyone, Gundam here for a 35th and brand new episode of our special edition Lore of the Universal Century. Today, we're going back again to the Zeta era in an attempt to answer a particular question, which is... Yep, in this video, we are going to explore the history of Axis Zeon's Dragon suit, its mechanical lore, variants, and extract every bit of mechanical knowledge we have on them so far. But let's start by the beginning. What is exactly the Bawoo? Labeled as the AMX 107, the Bawoo, also called Bao or Long Fei, was a prototype general use transformable mobile suit deployed by Axis Zeon during the First Neo-Zeon War. An experimental mobile suit designed to catch up all Federation-related factions in terms of variable technology, the Bawoo was a stark departure from Axis' earlier transformable models, the Gaza series, intelligently combining the assets of a 3rd generation and 4th generation mobile suits into a single package. In mobile suit mode, the Bawoo appeared as an excellent combination of mobility and firepower, featuring multiple mobility assets as well as a diversified and powerful arsenal. Through its aerodynamically shaped head and special binders-equipped backpack, detachable and capable of purging used fuel tanks, the Bawoo could reach high maneuverability in space, granting it mobility, rivaling even specialized high mobility models. Weaponry-wise, the Bawoo's primary handled equipment was a special beam assault rifle, a weapon with a power output of 3.6 megawatts, capable of switching via selector between a sniping and rapid firing mode, as well as being carefully shaped for high-speed combat. This rifle was complemented by a unique shield equipped with 5 0.77 megawatts mega-particle cannons, all equipped with movable muzzles to cover a max firing angle of 160 degrees. In terms of inbuilt weapons, the Bawoo was also a machine to fear, equipping color-equipped Vulcans of a known caliber, as well as 4 tubes grenade launchers on each forearms. Now, all these assets displayed in mobile suit form were far from being the Bawoo's real pride, with the machine featuring, as a 3rd generation mobile suit, a transformable mechanism. Unlike most transformable mobile suits, such as the Zeta Gundam or Gapflay, the Bawoo was not exactly a pure transformable suit, belonging instead to the split category called combiner suits. Instead of completely transforming its mobile suit body into a single mobile armor or Wave Rider mode, the Bawoo instead first split into 2 different pieces, one made of the cockpit, chest and arms, with the other comprising the waist and the legs. The upper part would then transform into an aerodynamically shaped aircraft, called the Bawoo Attacker, capable of high mobility in space, but also relative self-sustained flight abilities in 1G environments. The Bawoo Attacker could then be used as an escape pod or a rapid interceptor, with the backpack transform wings storing a total of 6 AMM-06H guided missiles for additional punching power, outside of course of the still usable Vulcans. On the other side, the lower body would instead switch into a primitive flying unit called Bawoo Nutter with a 90-degree rotation of the legs, forming a lifting body to enable it to fly in the atmosphere. Unlike the Bawoo Attacker, which stored the cockpit and was thus manned by the pilot, the Bawoo Nutter was instead monitored through radio control by the attacker, with the Nutter engaging a crude autopiloting should the radio link be interrupted by Minovsky interference. Now a sort of giant remote-controlled plane, the Nutter could fill the role of a massive suicide bomber, storing a total payload of 1.8 tons of explosive for a range of 640 kilometers. Worse, the Nutter could also be fitted optionally with a tactical nuclear warhead, giving the Bawoo unparalleled strategic value as a possible nuclear platform. All these powerful features combined together resulted in the Bawoo being an excellent design, albeit one relatively hard to control, especially because of the complicated split mechanism. Through its adoption by Glemmy Toto, future leader of the Glemmy's faction, the model would prove its worth during the First Neo-Zeon War against the Gundam team, and would lead to the Bawoo being mass-produced afterward and continue spawning variants for almost 30 years. Yet, the history of this successful machine is a long and complicated story, born out of backroom deals and betrayals that happened during the chaos ending the Grips War. Thus, without losing any time, let's cover this lore. The year is Universal Century UC-88. At that time, the Federation Civil War, known as the Grips War, opposing the Titans Task Force to the Hiryuu, was coming to an end, with both factions laying in ruins after the prolonged conflict. In the midst of this chaos, the returning First Neo-Zeon movement, Axis Zeon, had managed to preserve its forces during the war, using its now uncontested power to challenge a confused Earth Federation and a depleted Hiryuu. Unlike most Earth Federation-related factions who had become overly reliant on the mega-corporation Anime Electronics, Axis could pride itself of its enormous industrial power and R&D capacity, enabling the numerically inferior Zeon forces to dominate the battlefield through the numerous high-performance machines, nearly all produced in-house. Yet, this general technological edge, notably in new type use technologies, was overshadowed by a cruel lack of scientific knowledge in a particular field, the area of mobile suit transformable technology. Although Axis had managed to create an entire line of mass production transformable mobile suits, the Gaza series, the transformable technology of Z series was primitive and lagging behind, notably in comparison with high-end transformable prototypes the Titans and the Hiryuu were able to manufacture. To solve this issue, Axis Zeon's engineers engaged a special development project, which aimed to quickly catch up the foreign technology and produce a model capable of competing with star enemy mobile suits such as the Zeta Gundam of the Hiryuu. At that time, the technological gap seemed relatively difficult to fill, notably with no preliminary data to base the work, and yet Axis Zeon was able, almost at light speed, to finalize something on the drawing board. This early design, named Hiryuu, was a stark departure from anything Axis Zeon had ever created, resembling fundamentally and suspiciously more of a Federation-related design. The speed at which the Hiryuu was conceptualized and designed was, however, not because of a stroke of luck, but instead the opening of a can of worms. The Hiryuu had in fact not been designed using Axis Zeon's own preliminary works, instead being based on data samples and numerous blueprints that had been secured from Federation-related sources. From which sources these samples were obtained is still a mystery to this day, but it is said to be the combination of multiple things, including a secret backroom deal with Anime Electronics and an even more scandalous political deal with the Federation itself. What was the content of these samples is however less mysterious, with multiple sources stating it contained data from the Zeta Gundam itself, the prototype Double Zeta Gundam, and other multiple blueprints from the Zeta project as a whole, with some other sources even pointing the Hiryuu was developed following an unused design meant for the original Zeta Gundam. With this enormous database now at their disposal, the Axis Zeon engineers were able to quickly establish a modified creation of their own, with the process being sped up by the help of ex-Zeon engineers who had defected from the Hiryuu or Anime Electronics. Either way, the Hiryuu was the first stage of the Bawoo development project, introducing the combiner splitting mechanism that the Bawoo line would be known for. In this early stage, the engineers had already conceptualized the attacker and Notter separation, and had first proposed the Hiryuu to be a dual-seater, with a top pilot piloting the attacker and a bottom pilot piloting the Notter. This concept, very similar to the double Zeta transformation mechanism, was however deemed inefficient and almost caused the project to be shelved on the spot. The engineer's second proposal was a single pilot in a cockpit installed in the attacker, with the Notter being instead remotely controlled by radio signal or laser communication. This more feasible concept was however also dismissed, with the approval committee considering Minovsky interference would impact said remote control, rendering the Notter completely unusable and deadweight in any modern battlefield. With the attacker Notter splitting mechanism seeming a dead end, the combining system was removed as a whole, and after a short unsuccessful attempt to implement a regular transformation mechanism, the Hiryuu was simply rescheduled. Because of the excellent mobile suit design, the mobile suit wasn't cancelled, with Axision top brass instead planning to reassign it as a non-transferable mobile suit for officers to use, akin to the Yakushiki. Yet, the seemingly stunted Hiryuu's project changed drastically when it crossed paths with a bright and ambitious Axision officer, a young man named Glemmy Toto. On his personal request, the Hiryuu was repainted in vermilion colors, with a kanji combining the Japanese characters for dragon and flight being added to the skirt, resulting in a writing that could be read as Bao. This kanji would actually cause the Hiryuu to be renamed the Bawoo, a name that would stick to the entire successor line. Now serving as a test pilot, Glemmy would highly praise the machine and notably find himself highly satisfied with the Bawoo attacker, praising its mobility and escape pod potential. Even better, Glemmy found personally a use for the Bawoo Nutter, conceptualizing it as a massive missile that could expand the Bawoo tactical sphere. On his advice, the rejected radio communication link between attacker and Nutter was re-established, with the crude autopilot being added to solve the Minovsky interfering problems. The intervention of Glemmy would save the Bawoo as a transformable combiner suit, and following successful use would lead to the Axision brass approving a plan for possible mass production. The original Bawoo would then serve as Glemmy personal mobile suit, fighting the Gundam team on numerous occasions during the war before being finally vanquished on Earth by their Yakushiki. As stated before, the Bawoo was accepted for mass production, but not before a short competition with another Axision model, namely the MS-15K Gankai, for adoption by the Axision Night officers. Although the Gankai was found to be superior in terms of mobile suit to mobile suit fighting potential, the Bawoo was quickly determined to be the most versatile machine out of the two competitors, which led to the Bawoo being scheduled for mass production instead of the Gankai. The Bawoo's victory led to the formal approval of the Bawoo's mass production plan, which led to the large-scale production as the first Neozian war raged of the successor machine known as the AMX-107 Bawoo mass production type. As the name indicates, the MP Bawoo was essentially the mass-produced version of the Bawoo, but like the unmodified model number suggests, it featured very few changes from the original prototype. Aside a new green paint scheme, cheaper electronics and inner materials, the mass production Bawoo retained all the tech features and design assets of its predecessor, effectively making it an almost complete replica of the original Bawoo at a lower cost. Summed up, a very rare case of successful mass production. The Bawoo mass production type was then extensively fielded during the First Neozian War, and more notably as part of the Glemmy faction, with many grey-colored Bawoos being introduced before the end of the war. The suit was widely praised by Neozian soldiers, notably for its excellent mobile suit mode, but was less appreciated for its combiner technology. The split mechanism between attacker and Nutter was indeed rather difficult to use and take advantage for regular pilots, with most of them only using it to launch the Nutter as a suicidal missile while escaping with the attacker. For this reason, it is believed that a large number of the mass production Bawoos, notably by the end of the war, were manufactured with the split mechanism being sealed, since most pilots were unable to take advantage of it anyway. This late production trend would eventually result in the manufacture of an official non-transformable version of the Bawoo, the AMX-107 Bis, aka Bawoo Bis. A replica of the MP Bawoo, now fully relieved of the split mechanism, the Bawoo Bis was otherwise indistinguishable from its more common MP brethren, which resulted in the regular MP Bawoos, late production MP Bawoos, and Bawoo Bis intermixing to form a loose class of mass-produced version Bawoos. These Bawoos would then continue service in the Axision ranks, becoming, after the First Neozian War, one of the most commonly fielded mobile suits in the Axision remnants scattered across the Earthsphere. The Bawoo Combiner system, now made available to the Federation and Anheim related factions through capture units, would then inspire some Federation-related technologies, notably the Theta Plus core fighter, which adopted a radio communication link and docking system inspired by the Attacker Notur's version. By the very early UC90s, the mass-produced Bawoos continued serving Neo Zeon, being, alongside the Metis mass production type, one of the two more commonly fielded units by the second Neo Zeon movement, Newborn Neo Zeon, remaining their mainstay model until the large-scale adoption of the Doga series. Some Neo Zeon aces, such as Resin Schneider, were also known to have made extensive use of the mass production Bawoo, and even painted it in their signature colors. Now in the hands of Newborn Neo Zeon, the Bawoo would meet a change of fate regarding its use, progressively leaving its role as a forerunner combiner suit to instead delve into new type research. Because of its high performance, the Bawoo was chosen to serve as a testbed unit for early Psycho Frame technology, resulting in the creation by UC92 of the machine known as the AMX 107P, nicknamed Psycho Bawoo. A new type-use mobile suit derived from the MP Bawoo, the Psycho Bawoo was created using data from the Psycho Gundam Mark IV, and as such was specially meant to use the Mark IV signature armament, the Psycho Plates, with Neo Zeon having recovered half the plates that weren't attached to the Moon Gundam. This gave the Psycho Bawoo the possibility to control, through a new type or cyber new type pilot, the plates as mentally controlled physical bits, to attack the enemy as blades or be used as crude shields. Aside this new Psychomo feature, the Psycho Bawoo was also upgraded with a more powerful generator, as well as a slightly upgraded combiner system. The Attacker and Notter, now called Psycho Attacker and Psycho Notter, functions the same as the original Attacker Noctur splitter, with the radiocom link between both parts being instead replaced with a Psychomo receiver, enabling the new type in the Attacker to control the Notter through its own Psycho waves. This model was produced in the 3 units production, with the first unit adopting a pinkish color scheme, while the other adopted instead a regular green palette. Said units would then be used by Gune Gus, Petro Zenik, and Yahim Yaromir, all candidates selected from Neo Zeon main new type lab, and be used in combat against their cousin suit, the Moon Gundam. By the mid-UC90s, after the fall of Newborn Neo Zeon, the Bawoo mass production type remained a common sight amongst Zeon remnants, on Earth and in space, but notably in the ranks of the revived Neo Zeon organization known as the Sleeves. The Sleeves would notably create their own modified version of the mass production Bawoo, the Sleeve Custom Bawoo you probably saw in episode 7 of the Unicorn OVA. Aside the added ornated markings on the machine sleeves, the Sleeves Bawoo included notably a reinforced arsenal, with a total of 6 additional AMM-06H missiles being mounted on the Notter, alongside new machine cannons on the side skirt. Equipment-wise, this custom Bawoo was instead equipped with a Geradoga beam machine gun, used in conjunction with a new special shield, made of the old Bawoo shield, and which sacrificed the mega particle cannons for a reinforced plating and a grenade launcher. Now, the Sleeves Bawoo real innovation came in the control system of the combiner mechanism, with the radio link between Attacker and Notter being completely abolished in the unit. Instead, the original idea of a cockpit in each part, so having a pilot in the Attacker and one in the Notter, was reintroduced in the unit, which, if you're wondering, is why the Notter continue attacking relentlessly the Nail Argama instead of bugging or flying around aimlessly even after the Attacker is destroyed. There was a pilot in each part of this Bawoo. Sadly, the entire Bawoo and both parts were destroyed during the final battle of the Unicorn OVA. Rest in peace, Sleeves Bawoo. This being said, the Sleeves Bawoo was only but a fraction of the Sleeves' ability to repurpose the Bawoo line for their own needs. Prior to the acquisition of the Sinanjustein, their front leader, Full Frontal, used a customized Geradoga as his personal mobile suit, a decent but unfitting machine for the AC was. To solve this issue, the Sleeves instead manufactured a special mobile suit for him, a heavily modified version of the Bawoo codenamed AMX 107R Rebawoo, a very infamous suit, yet at the same time very obscure. A mobile suit meant to accommodate the needs of an amazing pilot such as Frontal, the Rebawoo was a massive upgrade of the Bawoo as a whole, being refitted carefully to have its basic specs including sensor radius, generator output, and thrust nearly doubled. The new additions made on the regular sleeves Bawoo, including the additional Nutter missiles, machine cannons, and new shields, were all added to the Rebawoo as well, with the shield gaining the ability to emit a air field similar to the Unicorn's Gundam own shield. The chest Vulcans were replaced by beam variants, and a flexible beam gun was added on each of its legs, capable of repositioning itself for the pilot to use. Now, the real upgrade of the Rebawoo was when it came to its splitting mechanism, with the transformable technology being coupled with new Tapius technology. The cockpit, part of the Rebawoo attacker, was coated with psychoframe material, as well as the nose of the Rebawoo Nutter, which received the same treatment. This psychoframe addition drastically increased the controls of the Rebawoo, enabling a new type pilot to better control the mobile suit as a whole, as well as remotely control the Nutter through its own psycho waves. In addition, this process dramatically increased the speed and efficiency of the docking and unlocking process of the two parts, enabling the Rebawoo to graciously split and then recombine at will to perform more complex maneuvers. As a bonus, the Rebawoo Nutter received additional flexible thruster units, enabling the Nutter to be able to carry another mobile suit as a sort of subflight system. Unfortunately, the Rebawoo would never fill its intended role. With the capture of the Sinanju Stein, Full Frontal would adopt the superior Sinanju instead of the Rebawoo, leading to the unit being instead assigned to his subordinate, Luger Luke. In UC-94, Luke would descend on Earth with the Rebawoo and briefly cooperate with the Federation forces to take down the Titan's remnant stronghold known as the Devil Nest. 1 year later, the Rebawoo would return to space and run across the Banshee and Fennec during the test mock fight, an event that would catalyze the Fennec running berserk and fleeing from the grasp of the Earth Federation. By UC-96, the Rebawoo was still in activity, continuing its work for the sleeves by investigating stray Neosian remnants. In the bande dessinée of Gundam Unicorn, the Rebawoo would participate in the battle at Industrial 7, but would, without surprise, be defeated by Banagher Link under full armor Unicorn Gundam, ending the Rebawoo activities. The Rebawoo's end would seal the fate of the Bawoo lineage and become the last significant model born out of the AMX 107 lines. Still, the legacy of the Bawoo continued to live on, with numerous mass production Bawoos continuing operating in the hands of various factions well over the UC-100s. In UC-115, a trio of MP Bawoos continued service in the hands of a group of space pirates, all heavily bastardized with parts from other machines, such as a Geradoga shield and backpack or Hyper Knuckle Buster from the gas zone. These Bawoos would, in the end, fall by the hand of the much more advanced Gundam F90, who would easily overpower them through the combination of its N and G mission packs. Over its long history, the Bawoo has proved multiple times its worth as a highly versatile and effective machine, being recognized as such by most Neosian-related factions. While rather unique and difficult to use, its splitting mechanism would prove in the end to be a major technological prowess, a good alternative to costly full transformable mechanisms. By the mid-UC-120s, the concept of the combiner with top and bottom parts would be recycled by the scenery and would directly lead to the creation, through the Gundam F93 Cluster Kai, of the famous terminal system, direct inheritor of the attacker Nutter mechanism. The system would then be popularized in the mid-UC-150s, notably during the Zanskar War, where both the Victory Line and Zolo series would adopt variations of it, nearly 65 years after the creation of the Bawoo. I guess congratulations are in order, Mr. Bawoo, and if you want to say something about this, well, these Nutters.
But who will survive?